And so it begins. Hey everyone, it's Caitlin and welcome to another video. In this video series, I'm going to be challenging myself to go zero waste for a week. And I am low-key, high-key, middle-key, I don't know, kind of scared. If you are unfamiliar with the term, zero waste is a philosophy that essentially aims to produce no waste. So people who follow the zero waste movement are very conscious about all of the products and the packaging that they purchase or consume and try to throw basically nothing out at all. To further explain it, there are 5 R's to zero waste, which include refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, which means to compost. These R's are set up in a pyramid format with the bottom 2 R's of refuse and reduce, the 2 things that you should be doing the most of, with the top R's being things that are acceptable alternatives, but things you should be doing less frequently. It's kind of like the US government food pyramid, like you're supposed to eat most of the stuff on the bottom and the sweets and sugar and butter and whatever on the top is in moderation. You're probably gonna think that it sounds absolutely insane, and you might not even realize how much plastic or waste that you're using in your life and how much you consume on an everyday day, just because it's so ingrained in our culture and our society. And I totally thought the same way. To be honest, I do a lot of things in my everyday life and purchase certain products that aim to minimize or reduce my waste. I've also been wanting to do this for a while, I'd say since the start of 2018, and it is now September, but I have been putting it off for several reasons. The first being more excusable, I think. I was still in Miami when I originally wanted to do this, but it was right before big changes in my life. I moved across the country. I live in Washington State now. There was just a lot of things going on logistically where I didn't have a full week to dedicate to doing this. And to be honest, the second reason isn't really as quite excusable, but it was because I was honestly kind of scared to do this. As an outsider, I consider the zero waste community to be kind of aggressive. I'm a vegan, and I kind of see some parallels between that movement and the vegan movement. There are a lot of people who are very dedicated and passionate about their cause, and because of this, I think sometimes they come across as very aggressive to people who are not in the movement. I'm not saying that the zero waste movement is bad in any way, shape, or form, but I know as someone who puts myself out there online, sometimes I get some very passive aggressive and frankly rude comments about my plastic usage. And I'm not saying that using plastic is good, again, but I think there is usually a more constructive way to go about it than posting, oh my gosh, that's so much plastic, frowny face emoji on like a grocery haul or something like that. So I'm challenging myself to go zero waste for a week. I'm going to try to present it as realistically as possible. I want to definitely address the pros of being zero waste, but I also think there are some cons, or maybe not cons, but disadvantages that people who are zero waste don't really talk about. So I'm going to be as honest as possible, share my experience with you. I have done some research, so I think I am kind of prepared. But yeah, starting tomorrow, we're gonna do it for 7 days, so let's go. Good morning. Today is day 1 of my zero waste challenge. I just did some yoga this morning and I did make myself some tea, but I already had some loose leaf tea in bulk, so no plastic has been used. And I poured it into my reusable travel mug. This keeps liquid warm for like 12 hours. It's awesome. I love it. And now I am about to go and get some food. Everyone has to eat, and I feel like that's the most important matter at hand. So I got a few spots in Portland that I'm going to check out. I brought a bunch of reusable containers with me, got my reusable bags, so let's go. First stop is kind of not typical, but I wanted to get bread. I did find a gluten-free bakery in Portland, and I've had their bread before. I know it's good, but I bought it in a grocery store and it was in a plastic bag. So I don't know if they're gonna do it, but I'm going to go in and ask them if I can get some bread without the plastic bag. Guys, they did it! Oh my God! I talked to the person working there and she said that all the bread was wrapped in plastic, but she took it out of the plastic bag for me. She washed her hands and then she put it into my bag and she said they could totally reuse the plastic bag. So I got a loaf of vegan gluten-free bread. And I also got 2 everything bagels. I'm really excited to try these. And those were already out, like not wrapped in plastic. So I was able to get those. It was a little pricier, obviously, because it's gluten-free bread. But I'm excited. Obviously, if you're not gluten-free, you could just go to a local bakery or even like a bread place at a grocery store, and I feel like you could just ask them to hand you the loaf of bread and you could put it in your own bag. Now I'm going to be going to a grocery store. It is a co-op, so it's a health food store. Apparently they have a really good bulk section. I feel like the bulk sections that are the most widespread are usually in health food stores, so I wanted to check this one out first. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be getting at the store, so I'm bringing a few things. I have some bags, and then I also brought some glass jars that I've saved over time. There's like salsa jars, nut butter jars, and I do have reusable produce bags. I forgot to turn my microphone on the whole time I was in the store, so that sucks, but I went to People's Co-op. It's actually a vegetarian supermarket, and their bulk bins are freaking amazing. It was like bulk bin heaven. They had tons of grains, quinoa, buckwheat, tons of flours, more grains, rice, all the dried beans you could ever imagine and or need. There were some oats, some superfoods, and the vegan staple, nutritional yeast. They also had make your own nut butter machines, as well as tubs of nut butters like tahini, cashew butter, peanut butter. They had a ton of dried fruit, and they even kept their nuts in the refrigerated section, which I thought was really cool because that helps them stay fresh for longer. They also had like salsa, and they had a whole wet section as well, including vinegars, oils, and they had spices and teas too. It was amazing. My mind was blown. They also had superfood powders, and they even had soap. So they had Dr. Bronner's and shampoo and conditioner, and they even had bulk dish soap and laundry detergent. And you could bring your own jars just by using a scale, weighing your jar, and then they would subtract the weight of your jar at checkout once you filled it. I left the co-op and now I'm at this place called Winco Foods. This is actually the grocery store that I do the majority of my shopping at in Vancouver as well, but I am going to one in Portland. They have a gigantic bulk bin section too. And I think the interesting thing about this store is that it's not a quote-unquote health food store. Not everything is organic, but the prices are considerably lower, and they have everything like coffee, pasta, flour, spices, tons of stuff. So I'm going to get more things here, I think. So I'm now in another place number 4. I just got some tofu. It's called boy tofu, might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but I got 6 things of firm tofu for $4. I still have 1 spot left. I have to go to the farmer's market. It's kind of weird. The Vancouver one doesn't open until 10. So I did all this first, and now I'm going to head there, get my produce, and then head home, and I will show you guys everything that I got. I may have bought too many things. So I already talked about the tofu. At the first healthier store, honestly, I was getting really stressed out because I was thinking of getting like all the nuts and seeds and stuff that I need for the week. I have a lot of the things that I was going to buy at home already. I think to be in line with the zero waste principles, I should be using up what I have at home first. So I'm still only going to be using ingredients that I know I could get in bulk or in glass containers, but I didn't think it made sense to spend a bunch of money on spices or other nuts and seeds when I already had them at home. I did get some peppermint tea because I don't have a lot of loose leaf tea left. I also got some medjool dates, quinoa, buckwheat groats. I also got some xylitol, which sounds weird. It's a fake sweetener, but I'm going to try to make my own toothpaste. I saw a recipe that used this. Then here I have my loaf of bread that I got at New Cascadia along with my 2 bagels. And then at Winco, I got a bunch of tomatoes, 2 sweet potatoes, 3 avocados, 4 lemons, 1 lime, and an onion. And then as far as the bulk bin items, the thing that stinks about Winco, I actually did go to their customer service and ask, but the woman said that you can't really bring your own glass jars, and they won't subtract the chair from your bags because they like physically cannot do it in their cash register system. So what I did is I saved up plastic bags that I had used before or I had gotten in other orders because I didn't want to throw them out. So I just used those to get some of my items because they are more lightweight than the cloth bags. I did have to use some cloth bags. I do use these most of the time. I just kind of considered an extra donation to the environment. I mean, they really don't weigh that much more. Also, you could just go to Winco, get like 4 or 5 plastic bags and then reuse those. Plastic lasts for 400 years, so I think it would be acceptable to just get a set of plastic bags and then keep using those same ones and then just empty it into glass when you get home. I got some gluten-free pasta, dry lentils, dried chickpeas, and then I got a giant bag of soy nuts. And then last but not least from Winco, I got a little bit of chocolate chips. I want to try to make some zero waste brownies. I got all of these things at Winco for about $10 and a few cents. And then I got all of these things, these tiny jars from the health food store for $10. So it's like when you're comparing, I did get more specialty items there, but not all of this is organic. But it is still possible if you're on a lower budget or you only want to go to one store, I would just go to Winco because you can get more in bulk and you can get produce too. That being said, not everyone may live near a Winco as well. It's important to keep this in mind. I just think zero waste definitely is a privilege still, and that some people may not have the option. I mean, not everyone has the option to go to the farmer's market. This was like $12 in total. I got 2 cucumbers, 2 zucchini, eggplant, a bunch of dill, bell peppers, a bunch of beets. I'm going to use the beets, but I'm also going to use the beet greens. And then last but not least, I got a bunch of kale. And I do also have some produce in my fridge left from the farmer's market the week before. So everything I eat this week is going to be zero waste. $36 for a week of food, which isn't that bad. And maybe if you didn't eat as much food as me, this could last for more people. I do think this food is going to last more than a week, but I just wasn't sure. That's another thing too. I think I could have planned this better, but honestly, I wasn't really sure what the stores were going to have to offer that was in bulk. So if I was doing zero waste, I could probably only go to one store like once a week or maybe once a month and plan ahead, and I would save time that way. But like, I gotta say, going to 5 different stores to get these things was really time consuming and obviously not feasible for everyone. If you didn't have a car, you wouldn't be able to do this. So far the waste that I have created is actually pretty good because most of these reusable bags I already had. I'm reusing my salad container, but I did have to put labels on my jars to write down the weights. And then a lot of the produce at Winco, which stinks, just everything has a freaking sticker on it. Then at the farmer's market, I do have these produce bands around the beets, the kale, and the dill. It's just like this twist tie. I did ask the farmer, I said, if I gave this back to you, would you reuse it or would you throw it away? And he was like, honestly, we would just throw it away. So I know some people say you can give this back to the farmer, but I don't know. I just feel like they probably have a giant bin of these and they're not gonna take the ones that you give back to them. They're probably just gonna throw them away. I do have some leftovers that I need to use up, but for my first meal, I think I'm just gonna make a tofu scramble. So I have one of the blocks of tofu that I got today. I have some collard greens, those were from the farmer's market last week, and a little bit of pesto that I made last week that I need to use up. I'm gonna add some turmeric and garlic powder and salt, and then I have some shishito peppers. I got these at the farmer's market last week, but I think I'm gonna char them up to serve alongside it. This breakfast looks pretty dang good, if I do say so myself. We got our pesto tofu scramble, some extra pesto on the side. I toasted up a piece of bread. I'll probably eat more shishito peppers with extra pesto to dip it in. This doesn't really feel like zero waste. I guess I had such a stereotype in my head that was like, you can't eat anything, but going to the bulk bins and stuff definitely made me realize we still eat a lot. And I feel like the diet that I eat would actually work really well with a zero waste lifestyle because I don't really eat a lot of processed food. So if you're eating potato chips, yeah, you definitely can't get those zero waste. Though I will say, guys, Winco actually had a candy section. I don't know how much of it was vegan, but there were like jelly beans and gummies and I don't know, that was pretty impressive. Obviously, I did still buy some fancy things and do buy fancy things, but I just like to invest more money in my food than like other things. So you could definitely just buy like a rice and beans from the bulk bins, and zero waste could be really cheap and really affordable. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, is that really how, if you have the means to, you want to live your life? Like, I feel like more people want variety and like fun things with food, especially for me because I'm a foodie. I am currently washing my veggies. I separated the beet stems from the beet greens just because I'm going to cook them separately anyways. And I put them in some water. And then I have this giant bucket of the kale because it was super long. I didn't know what to put it in. Usually I let them sit for like 30 minutes or so. I'm actually about to go out and do something with some friends, so I'm just gonna let them sit for longer. I will admit that I did mix some vinegar with this to help disinfect it, and it did come in plastic, but I'm pretty sure this is something I can get in bulk somewhere. So it is now 7:23 p.m. I actually went to the movies with some friends. They were re-showing the Harry Potter movies, and it was only $5, so I decided to go. I just brought some pears with me that I actually foraged, but I'll share that with you guys a little bit later. My friends did buy popcorn, but they offered some to me that they weren't going to eat, so I thought it was acceptable to eat. And I will say I did have to get a movie ticket, though that is paper, so I can recycle it. But now I'm home. I am honestly starving. I just threw some quinoa on the stove because it cooks in like 15 minutes, and then I think I'm just going to try to eat the leftovers that I have in my fridge. I soaked my veggies for literally 3 hours. And look at this kale. It is still covered in bugs. Do you see them? They look like chia seeds. It freaks me out. Oh my God, like, look at all of them. Ah! Now I have to go and go through every leaf to make sure all the bugs are off. And yes, I do understand that this is a part of nature, but I will say this is a downside to the farmer's market, okay? It's not as convenient. Well, it definitely does not win any awards for being the most beautiful dinner ever, but I had some cooked lentils. It's probably like a cup of cooked lentils left in the fridge. So I added some of the quinoa to it, and I sauteed down the beet greens, and I mixed that with the rest of the pesto. The rest of the quinoa is over here, so I'm just going to save that for later. And I also found half of a cucumber from last week in my fridge, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, add it on top. I know that looked weird, but it was actually pretty filling. Usually I eat dessert after dinner. Like I'll have a piece of chocolate or something that I made, but I didn't have time really to prep my food today, so I don't have dessert. I'm just gonna drink this homemade hemp milk that I made. It's actually really easy to make your own hemp milk. It's probably the easiest nut milk to make. You just blend hemp seeds with water in a blender, and you don't even have to have a high-powered blender. But that is it for day one. To be honest, I'm exhausted, but I would say that this was easier than I thought it would be. That being said, I feel like I live in an area with a lot of resources. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. There are so many more aspects than just grocery shopping, but that's all I could fit in for one day. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we're actually going to be doing something fun, but I'll save that until tomorrow. Talk to you later, guys.